Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Hamas is retaking control in parts of Gaza. President Trump is responding with a strong warning to the terror group. Give up your weapons or we'll take them from you.
Israel is claiming Hamas is breaking the ceasefire terms by delaying the return of deceased hostages. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has more.
President Trump is warning Hamas to lay down its weapons, as they agreed to do in the ceasefire deal.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm.
It comes as Hamas moves to retake parts of Gaza and is publicly executing its enemies. Meantime, Israel temporarily closed the Rafah crossing into Gaza. It's accusing Hamas of breaking the agreement by failing to turn over all 28 deceased hostages. Overnight, Hamas turned over 4 more bodies to the International Committee of the Red Cross, but forensics determined one body was not a hostage. That brings the total to just 7. Fabrizio Carboni of the International Committee of the Red Cross told CBN's Faith Nation how important it is for families to receive the remains.
It's not just a point in a peace agreement. It's something very important for the families, because if you don't have the mortal remain and the body, you can't grieve, and more importantly, you don't know, and you stay in a situation of ambiguous loss, and it's a permanent state of torture.
One of those still waiting is Ella Haimi. Her husband Tal died fighting terrorists invading their kibbutz on October 7th, and his body was taken to Gaza. She has 4 children, the youngest born after Tal was killed. She says her life is full of mixed emotions.
I'm very happy for other people, and I'm very sad for myself. We had the worst, that we lost Tal, but we have Lotan, the baby. So this is my life.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife Sarah visited some of the hostages returned this week.
With the same determination, the same responsibility, the same seriousness, we are dealing with the return of the deceased. We will spare no effort and no means to return them.
Families of the 20 hostages that returned are speaking for the first time. Liran Berman thanked President Trump for the return of his twin brothers, Gali and Ziv.
For 738 days, our lives were trapped between hope and fear. Yesterday, that chapter ended. Seeing Gali and Ziv again, holding them after so long, was like feeling the world start to move again.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, we rejoice with Israel, and we rejoice with the reunification of the living hostages. We also mourn with them for the ones who are deceased, and Hamas just doesn't want to comply with the terms of the deal that they agreed to. And it shouldn't be a surprise to us. It's not a surprise to me. The ideology underlying that group is murderous, and it's like this eternal death cult, that unless you're engaged in the jihad, the struggle against Israel, and you're using every weapon in your disposal to wipe Israel off the map, well, then you really have no reason to exist. That's what they train themselves to do. That's what they teach their children and their grandchildren. It all comes out of Muslim Brotherhood and that horrible ideology, and it's spread throughout the Middle East. Whether it's in ISIS or Hezbollah or Hamas or Fatah or Iran or Qatar, it's the same ideology, and they firmly believe this, that they are doing good for the world by trying to wipe out Jews, and they're gaining favor with their God in all of it. It's absolutely crazy, but that's the reality, and we need to deal with that reality appropriately. They won't ever agree to peace because it's fundamentally against what they've been taught since they were born. In other news, tension in Chicago escalated into a clash between ICE agents and community residents. Ephraim Graham has that story and more from our CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, a car chase through a Chicago neighborhood ended in a crash. ICE agents say the driver was an illegal immigrant trying to flee arrest. Residents at the scene began throwing eggs and rocks at the agents, who in turn fired tear gas to disperse the crowd. The incident highlights the growing risks for federal officers. The Homeland Security Department is reporting Mexican cartels are now offering cash rewards, $2,000 for intelligence on officials and their families, $5,000 to $10,000 for kidnapping or non-lethal assaults, and up to $50,000 for murdering high-ranking officials. DHS has increased security for federal agents and officials. Instagram is making big changes to protect minors online, following PG-13 movie standards to restrict posts, as well as giving parents more control to block content. There are new warnings about the dangers of virtual reality headsets to children at the same time. Potential predators are using the technology to contact them online. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson reports now.
Virtual reality involves strapping a headset to the face so the person wearing it can no longer see or hear the real world. This totally immersive experience can often feel more authentic than anything on a TV, laptop, or phone. Users often create an avatar or character that interacts with others operated by people they often don't know. These avatars can speak in a disguised voice, corner, and touch other players. Meta is deeply involved in virtual reality, and 2 former employees recently testified at a Senate hearing about the company's research into the risks of this alternative reality.
I quickly became aware that it is not uncommon for children in VR to experience bullying, sexual assault, to be solicited for nude photographs and sexual acts by pedophiles, and to be regularly exposed to mature content like gambling and violence, and to participate in adult experiences like strip clubs and watching pornography with strangers.
There will also be instances that we have seen of where you can hear people sexually pleasuring themselves transmitted over audio in a spatial sense as you are being surrounded and brigaded and being harassed. So it's not just simple statements, it is actually the transmission of the motion and the audio of sex acts itself.
And so that is what causes children to have the physiological and psychological response as if it were happening to them in the real world.
Yes, exactly. Visually and auditorily, it feels real.
These whistleblowers accused Meta of suppressing studies into the extent VR can harm teenagers and kids even younger.
When my colleagues' research showed the emotional impact of children being threatened by physical harm by strangers online, Meta not only restricted internal sharing, but manipulated reports to obscure any emotional damage.
Experts explain why this age group is especially vulnerable.
Their prefrontal cortexes of their brains are not fully developed yet. They're immersed in this new world.
Online safety advocate Donna Rice Hughes, president and CEO of Enough is Enough, advises parents to warn their children about this modern-day stranger danger.
The thing is, you have to teach your kids that you cannot recognize a disguised predator. They pretend to be somebody that they're not.
She adds technology companies need to implement safeguards, which is why Hughes supports the Kids Online Safety Act.
It basically will hold these platforms accountable, that they have got to mitigate harm to kids.
The bill is currently in the Senate. The legislation would protect minors' data, provide tools for parents, and make it easier to report harm. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
A judge is sentencing the man who set fire to the Pennsylvania governor's mansion to up to 50 years in prison. Surveillance video shows the convicted arsonist Cody Palmer breaking a window and throwing in a Molotov cocktail, later entering the mansion and setting fire to a dining room where Governor Josh Shapiro hosted a Passover Seder just hours before. The governor and his family were sleeping inside and alerted by security. Palmer said he set the fire due to Israel's military actions in Gaza. President Donald Trump honored Charlie Kirk at the White House yesterday, awarding the nation's highest civilian honor to the conservative activist and outspoken Christian who was assassinated about a month ago. The president called Kirk's political and religious influence on young people unmatched. Supporters say the movement he built is only growing stronger. CBN's Brody Carter reports.
Today we're here to honor and remember a fearless warrior for liberty, beloved leader who galvanized the next generation like nobody I've ever seen before. and an American patriot of the deepest conviction, the finest quality and the highest caliber, the late, great Charlie Kirk.
President Trump posthumously awarded Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom. On what would have been his 32nd birthday, members of Congress passed a resolution declaring it a National Day of Remembrance to honor the conservative activist and outspoken Christian.
Charlie always said the next generation will decide whether freedom endures. And because of you, I know that freedom will endure.
Kirk, the co-founder of Turning Point USA and its faith-based arm, Turning Point USA Faith, was fatally shot during a Q&A session at Utah Valley University. His work debating and educating young people built a strong movement credited for helping get President Trump elected.
It was something that Donald Trump just loved about Charlie Kirk. He loves people with talent. And Charlie Kirk oozed talent, and that was an attraction to President Trump. And then they became, if you will, much closer, kind of like a father-son bond, because not just of the talent, but because they spent a lot of time together.
That bond helped cement Kirk's role as one of the most influential voices in the conservative youth movement. His death has sparked what's being called the Charlie Kirk effect, a surge of young adults testifying that Charlie's courage in standing up for his faith has them going back to church for the first time in years.
People that didn't even know Charlie Kirk were moved by this, and you wonder why that was exactly. Well, look, I think we're in a spiritual battle. And I think people are searching for the truth. And I think Charlie Kirk was speaking about things of God.
There are signs this effect is tangible as pastors in several states reported attendance spiking by as much as 30% the weekend after his assassination. The signs of spiritual revival may be most visible among young women, with Erica Kirk now emerging as a key figure.
But there's a lot of young females trying to find their identity, trying to find their self in a culture gone haywire. And all of a sudden, God has put Erica Kirk in this situation, dare I say, for such a time as this. So we have the young male demographic covered with Charlie. The young female demographic seems to be starting to be covered by Erica Kirk as they move forward. It's the way God operates.
Turning Point USA says it's seeing an unprecedented wave of engagement, reporting more than 37,000 new requests to start high school and college chapters, with tens of thousands of more students signing up nationwide.
And to the Turning Point USA chapters that are watching all across America right now, you are the heartbeat of this future and of this movement.
Brody Carter, CBN News.
His life is why the president honored him with the nation's highest civilian honor. Gordon?
Yeah, it's well deserved. The book of Proverbs says that the memory of the righteous is a blessing. And so here, Charlie Kirk, his memory, may it be remembered for years, decades in the future as a rallying cry for an entire generation that, yes, indeed, righteousness exalts a nation.